Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, comparing a Toyota RAV4 to a Hyundai Tucson to see which affordable crossover is best. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Brent Brown Toyota here in Orem, Utah for giving me some time with this RAV4. I'm going to include a link to their website in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering the RAV4 is a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 203 horsepower and then 184 pound-feet of torque. Powering the Tucson is also a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. However, power outputs are a little bit less, 187 horsepower and then 178 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we move forward with the comparison, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the front end of the RAV4, definitely has an angular design. I mean, especially look at the headlights there. Whereas with the Tucson, everything's a little bit more rounded off. And also something to mention, those are the headlights for the Tucson, whereas the RAV4 has more traditional headlights. But regardless, let me know which front end you think looks better. Tire and wheel setup on the RAV4 is 225/65/17 in the front and over in the rear, whereas on the Tucson it is 235/55/19 in the front and in the rear. I will say the Tucson wheels look a little bit fancier compared to the wheels on this particular RAV4. But wheels aside, here's a side view with the RAV4. You guys can see you've got like the fender flares there. Look at the bodywork there at the bottom, and the overall shape, again, it's angular and sporty. Whereas when we go over to the Tucson, it's a little bit different. You've got lots of like lines there in the center, lots of cuts through the bodywork. We do have big fender flares just like the RAV4, so it's kind of interesting with the difference. Here's a quick look at the key fobs. You guys can see that they both have the same functionality with opening the hatch, and obviously you have the logos there on the back as well, and then lock and unlock and everything else. So here's a quick look at the cargo area in the Tucson. It's quite spacious, and that's one of the cool things about this segment of crossover. Also got a little 12-volt right here on the side, and then underneath we do have a spare tire, and then you do have those little tabs to throw down the second row. Now when it comes to the rear of the RAV4, it's actually pretty similar in terms of space to the Tucson, and this one actually has this cool floor covering. And then you guys can see we've got a 12-volt back here, and then if we pick up this loop, spare tire underneath, so very similar. And then wrapping things up with rear style, I've got like the light bar here on the Tucson, which is definitely interesting. But again, it's not as angular as the RAV4. I mean, look at the RAV4 here on the back end. It kind of has almost more of like a boxy appearance with the rear end. So the styling is quite different with both of them, but let me know which one you prefer. And then popping into the rear of the Tucson, I do like this trim piece that goes across, and then you got like the cloth trim down below and then padding down below that. And the door handle itself looks pretty fancy. And then here are the seats, so cloth seats with this package, and popping in, legroom's good, headroom's also good. We got some vents back here, we got some USB action as well. And popping over to the RAV4, you guys can see a little bit more utilitarian with the appearance on the door panel. I mean, especially the handle itself, look how chunky that is. And then just like the Tucson, we've got cloth seats here, and yeah, legroom's good, vents there, USB, pretty similar. And then headroom's also good. Now the front door panel with the Tucson is identical to the rear, and you guys can see with all of our window controls here, you got mirror adjustments, blind spot underneath the mirrors, and then here's the front seat. It does have some power adjustments. You got that for the hatch stability control. Steering wheel is manually adjustable, and look how that kind of connects to the vent. It's kind of cool. But start her up. So here's the steering wheel. This does have adaptive cruise control and steering assist. I like the overall design of the steering wheel. I think it looks pretty nifty. Full digital gauge cluster here in the center, which is another fun part of the Tucson. And then popping over here to the infotainment screen, got a backup camera here with it. Trajectory lines do turn the steering wheel. Resolution is pretty good. And then the infotainment system is pretty easy to use. You've got like the shortcut buttons on either side with it, and the overall response time is also solid with this. Has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We got dual zone climate, got some charging port action down below. Shift for the 8-speed automatic. It does have a center locker, which is kind of interesting. And then you can see we've got hill descent control, auto hold. It's for the camera. Here, auto stop start. Heated seats. Got the center console, which is pretty normal. And then I like this over here and how it all connects in a line. But yeah, no center for anything like that. Now with the RAV4, definitely continues the theme of utilitarian. As you can see, you got all of your window controls, your mirror adjustments. You have blind spot monitor just like the Tucson. And then again, cloth seats here up front, power adjustable. Got your hatch, steering wheel is manually adjustable. Got some storage right here, which is pretty cool. And start her up. Ooh. So with the steering wheel, you can see a little bit more bass with the appearance, but functionality is pretty similar. You got like your volume controls, cruise control, lane keep assist, all that. Don't have a full digital gauge cluster, but some of you might like this more because, right, it's one less thing to break, is what some of you might say. And then in reverse, we do have a backup camera. Now we're not going to spend time in the infotainment system because this one doesn't have the newer unit. But anyways, the newer unit with the Toyotas it's really good. It's really responsive. I'd say it's comparable to the one in the Hyundai. Dual zone climate controls here, and then I like how there's stability control button down below and everything in the auto self start. Charging area, and then got your parking brake right here, and then our drive mode selects a bunch of buttons, which is pretty cool. Some more storage, got the center console. Again, definitely more utilitarian with this interior, not as like luxury looking as the Tucson, but this one actually has a sunroof, which is a pretty cool feature. Okay, so we are starting off in the Tucson here, and something I do want to mention is with this base engine in the Tucson, sometimes it can feel kind of slow. The 8-speed does a pretty good job of keeping the engine, you know, in peak power when you need it, but again, it sometimes can feel kind of slow. Now, aside from that, seat comfort's really good at the Tucson. These cloth seats. Ride quality is good for a crossover in this segment as well. Steering and handling's also it's good. It's a very, like, it drives very well. So I think that Hyundai's done a good job with the tuning on this vehicle, with the suspension, everything is really good. And the good old roundabout will show the handling here with the Tucson. Then we'll get an acceleration, and yeah, I mean it's solid, that's for sure. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't gear down as much as you'd want it to. I will say that. So that sometimes can be a little bit of an annoyance. But I mean, overall, yeah, I mean it's pretty good. I do want to see how the RAV4 feels, and in that, I guess that wasn't in the sport mode. So let's pop it into the sport mode, give it the benefit of the doubt here. Don't have anyone behind us. I mean, the sport mode makes it a little bit better, but not that much better, to be honest. So with that being said, let's pop over to the RAV4 and see how things are over there. Okay. So setting off in the RAV4, right off the bat, I like this engine transmission setup way more than the Hyundai. It's just like, it just feels better. Like, it seems like the transmission's better than the Hyundai at keeping it in the power band, and it just has more power. You can feel that it has more power, more torque. Again, that's what's on paper, and in reality, it feels that way. This definitely feels like a more powerful car. Seat comfort, I think the Hyundai might have been a little bit better than the RAV4 when it comes to that. And ride quality, both pretty close, honestly. This does feel, like the Hyundai feels sportier, actually. This feels a little bit like heavier. It feels like a little bit of a bigger vehicle. I don't know if it actually weighs more, it's just, you know, the perception. And the steering's not as sharp with the RAV4 either. It's a little bit looser, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. We're going around in the roundabout with the RAV4 to see how it performs. Yeah, pretty good. Oh my gosh, yeah, this engine's so much better. Hyundai, you're gonna have to do something. And that wasn't even in the sport mode. So let's pop it into, okay, now we're in sport mode here. Yeah, it just does a much better job. So capping things off with this comparison, the interior of the Hyundai, I prefer that one. Some of you might like this one more because utilitarian feel, but I think the Hyundai interior feels nicer. Seats a little more comfortable. Exterior styling, I could go either way. When it comes to driving, I prefer the handling characteristics of the Hyundai, but I definitely prefer this engine. And so I guess if you could have the engine of the RAV4, styling doesn't matter to me. Interior of the Hyundai, And yeah, then that would kind of be the perfect vehicle. Let me know which route you would go. But you know, there's pros and cons to both of them. It's not like in this situation, it's honestly not an obvious win of one over the other.